Hello again and welcome. This is part 2 of the 5-part series on understanding inflammation. My name again is Tom Nelson. What are the causes of inflammation? What you eat and how much you eat really does matter. All living things have a device that's called antigens. Here you see on the screen an artist's rendering of a cell with its antigens that are all the way around it, almost like a porcupine. And those little appendages are reaching out into the blood and they're sampling everything that's passing by. Here you see a little different rendering of an antigen, and of course there's 4 different ones, each specific to one of the 4 different blood types. So the antigens are these antenna-like structures that extend out into the bloodstream, and nearly every cell in your body has them. All plants, animals, and humans have antigens, and they're unique to them. In fact, antigens are as unique to you as your DNA. Intruders can enter your body in a number of different ways. They can enter through your eyes, your nose, or your mouth. They can be absorbed through your skin. You'd be surprised at how much we pick up every day just by touching things that go through our skin, gets absorbed, and has to be dealt with. Most of these irritants, as we describe them, come in your food. Some of them come when you inhale with the air that you inhale, and some are in fluids that you drink. So the antigens identify the intruders as they pass by, and that will include foods that have incompatible antigens. Everything in health, in nature has a unique antigen, and they're not all compatible. That's why some things in nature you just simply don't eat. Your antigens are incompatible with that substance. So those are going to be called irritants. So the antigens alert your immune system. The immune system comes to the location, it produces an antibody for that intruder, and then it destroys it to get it out of your system. So irritants can be from a wide variety of sources. For example, chemicals are irritants. Food additives are chemicals, and they are very serious irritants. Cosmetics are loaded with them. Pesticides, and even your medications can be chemicals that will be irritants because they're not natural, they're chemical, and your body will not recognize them. Your antigens will not recognize them as being natural or healthy. So bacteria, viruses, toxins, and pathogens are also irritants that have to be removed. Even things that you touch can be an irritant. You'd be surprised at how much you absorb through your skin. Some say that we absorb 7,000 trace chemicals every single day through one of these different orifices or from our skin. Parasites in the air are going to be breathed in with the air that you breathe, and then your body will have to deal with that. So anything that has antigens can be compatible or incompatible with yours. Many are quickly and easily removed by your immune system. You're not even aware that it's going on. So inflammation is initiated by your body's physical reaction. Those physical reactions that are triggered by your immune system's response to the irritants that have been identified by your antigens. Or it can also be due to a physical injury or even an infection. So when an intruder appears or an injury occurs, your immune response is going to follow a very specific process. Those small vessel branches of your arteries, capillaries, are going to enlarge, and they're going to allow an increase in the blood flow, the supply to the area that is affected, where the injury occurred. That makes it easier for the capillaries to allow those fluids and proteins to enter the area where the injury is. So that large volume of blood will release what's called neutrophils. That's one of 5 different types of white immune cells that produce enzymes that will seek out and digest microorganisms, those intruders, those irritants. There's another form of white blood cells that are kind of like Pac-Man from the video game from years back. They just travel through the bloodstream, and they're just gobbling up and engulfing those kinds of intruders. You don't even know that it's happening, and they just work very quietly in the background. But for the majority of intruders, there's going to be no symptoms. The problem, though, will be quickly resolved because of those white blood cells that I just mentioned. So it's at this point where inflammation symptoms can become evident. It's when the more difficult challenges become present. Acute inflammation can become chronic inflammation. The challenges to the immune system will be too great, so the normal acute system won't be able to resolve it. It may be that the irritant may keep returning, like when you eat processed foods meal after meal after meal, day after day, or if you eat fast food or junk food every single day. You're going to keep your immune system in full war ready condition. So the immune system was never intended to have to deal with chemicals every day, or processed foods, or fast foods, or junk foods. So how is inflammation able to destroy the invaders? Previously, you learned that your antigens first identify the intruders. It can be a chemical, a pathogen, incompatible foods, or anything else that the antigens find threatening. And again, that can include your medications. So many intruders are gobbled up by special white immune cells, like I described, that just travel around in your bloodstream looking for those intruders, and they just simply remove them. But the antigens alert the immune system, which produces antibodies for the more important, the more difficult intruders. So now you're going to learn the rest of the story. Everything in existence is made up of atoms, and that's at the very most basic level. Atoms have a nucleus and electrons that orbit around them, as you see in this illustration. Your immune system has specialized cells. They're called T cells. They're also called natural killer cells. And those natural killer cells are going to come to the site of the intruder. They're going to bump up against that intruder, and they're going to strip off some of those electrons that are orbiting around the nucleus of the atom. And that causes the atom to become very unstable, which means that it will do anything in its power to restore its balance. It's going to seek any way possible to replace those missing electrons. And so they typically do is steal electrons from their neighboring atoms, which will cause a chain reaction. And that will become a very hot and a very violent reaction. It's like an atomic war. So the resulting atomic reaction is going to destroy that intruder. It's going to burn it up. So then the immune system will bring in another form of T cell that's called helper cells, which are going to bring in antioxidants. You've heard of antioxidants. Now you're going to know what they do. Antioxidants are simply substances like vitamin C, vitamin E, beta-carotene. There's a lot of different ones. And each of those can give up electrons without themselves becoming unstable or violent. So they can throw in handfuls of these electrons and they can shut down that atomic reaction. The atoms are going to grab up those loose electrons. They're going to restore them where they would normally be on their orbit, and that will restore order. So the inflammation will stop. That's the only way inflammation can stop, is if that atomic reaction is shut down. So the problem can become serious if there are no antioxidants available. And that's where we were in years past, when we were eating those processed foods or fast foods or junk food, because they don't contain any antioxidants. The processed foods have very few, if any at all, or vitamins or enzymes, because when they cook them at very extreme temperatures, which destroys them. So the chemicals cause massive amounts of inflammation, which are immune reactions on top of all of that. I'm talking about the chemical additives that they put in those processed foods. So then there's nothing to stop that atomic reaction, so the damage can go totally out of control, and it can extend to and start destroying healthy cells and tissues. So resolving inflammation is basically providing the tools, primarily the antioxidants, that are needed to stop it. And then, of course, avoid things that would cause inflammation. So now proceed to part number 3. We're going to learn some more about inflammation. Thank you for watching this video lesson, and please pay it forward. Share what you've learned with others that certainly could use